But in the end, it's a passing thing, this shadow. Even darkness must pass. All right. Continuing to lead off my videos with a literary quote. Hope you all enjoy it. Today we are reporting on an interesting development and an interesting title to this story. This is by Fox News, saying deadly strike on Iranian girls' school walls. The key word here, likely by the U.S. Now, I would prefer these stories to omit the inclusion of likely by the U.S. until we know for sure. Journalism, I would say it works better. So let's see if they provide any evidence for why they're using this particular framing device. The likely. I have heard that evidence points towards this missile being a Tomahawk, which only the U.S. has, and the horrific underlying point of this story is that a school was hit in Iran, I believe in Tehran, and not quite 200, but just under 200 civilians massacred. So, of course, Trump has been asked about this, and he has said, "Oh, it's not us. That was Iran. Their missiles are pretty bad. Their missiles suck." As if the U.S. has never intentionally or unintentionally bombed civilians before. Let's have a watch and see what we get. Hope you all are doing good.
Now to the latest in the war with Iran. President Trump insisting Operation Epic Fury is ahead of schedule tonight as the U.S. and Israeli military campaign enters its second week. The president holding his first solo news conference since this war began, threatening to hit Iran even harder if they make an attempt to stop the world's oil supply. The city of Tehran was hit with 20 explosions today.
That's the thing. This is all about oil and the darkness that I spoke about in that initial quote. It won't pass until these corporate interests, absolutely horrifically evil world elites aren't in power anymore, but we know that's likely not coming. Trump basically acting as an agent for Netanyahu, Jared Kushner. He's being influenced by a small sphere of people. Kushner, who's very cozy with Netanyahu, and also bin Salman. Anyways, the leader of Saudi Arabia. Because this war, essentially Saudi Arabia and Israel, they want to be rid of Iran, or at least protect their interests. And obviously they're using the U.S. to do this. Meanwhile, Putin is sitting back, having a good laugh at everything that's happening. This war, I would say, is pretty well categorically going horrible for Trump. He kind of framed it as, it's going to be easy. We're going to go in there. We're going to win. It's going to be a couple of days. The world has never seen a U.S. military like mine, and it's going to be great. It's going to be fantastic. Meanwhile, I think there's 7 U.S. soldiers dead. Civilians getting killed. Oil prices are skyrocketing. Inflation is going to skyrocket. People's bills are going to go up. It's a hugely unpopular war. People don't want war. He ran on being the anti-war president. And this talk of a uprising in Iran, sadly, I don't think is going to happen. The son of Ayatollah Khomeini has been named the new supreme leader. So it's like, it's not going as planned, I don't think. It's not as easy as Trump framed it, because he typically looks at enormously complex and nuanced issues as these black and white things that he can just go in and, oh, it's going to be easy. We're going to fix it. I got this. He doesn't, in fact, got this.
Marking the heaviest air raid since the beginning of the conflict. The president suggesting the war could be nearing an end, calling the conflict a, quote, little excursion.
We're achieving major strides toward completing our military objective. and some people could say they're pretty well complete. We've wiped every single force in Iran out. Their missile capability is down to about 10%, maybe less. We've struck over 5,000 targets to date, some of them very major targets, and we've left some of the most important targets for later in case we need to do it. If we hit them, it's going to take many years for them to be rebuilt.
Thousands of Iranians gathered in the streets of Tehran, pledging allegiance to the regime's new supreme leader. He is the son of the former Ayatollah killed in the initial U.S.-Israeli strikes.
The funny thing about that is, I remember Trump had said, he'd put out a statement like, it would be unacceptable if he didn't have direct input in who the new leadership of Iran is. And now look what's happened. Total opposite of what he said. And it's going to be interesting to see how he can spin this one to be a win for the U.S. It's not turning out to be as easy as he thought, I don't think. And he's starting to realize how unpopular this war is, and he'll probably start shifting blame onto people in his direct sphere of influence, I would guess.
President Trump reacting today, calling him unacceptable to lead the country. And new footage is raising the likelihood that the U.S. was responsible for the deadly explosion at an Iranian girls' school shortly after the war began. That blast killed at least 165 people, mostly children. The school is adjacent to a naval base of the Islamic Revolutionary Guards. Analysts say it was likely struck by a Tomahawk cruise missile during a quick succession of bombs dropped on the compound. President Trump said the strike could have been carried out by Iran, claiming without evidence that Iran has access to Tomahawk missiles.
The 7th U.S. service member who died in the war with Iran is now back on U.S. soil. The Pentagon has identified him as 26-year-old Sergeant Benjamin Pennington of Kentucky, saying he died yesterday, 1 week after he was injured in an attack on an air base in Saudi Arabia. Pennington's remains arrived in the U.S. tonight in a dignified transfer at Dover Air Force Base in Delaware. Vice President J.D. Vance and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth attended the solemn event. Those who knew Pennington are remembering him as an American hero.
It's unfortunate, it's heartbreaking, it's not surprising. He was always, to me, was always the type of person who would do that, who would do things for the betterment of others.
And in Sacramento, the California State Senate held a moment of silence today in honor of Chief Warrant Officer 3 Robert Marzon. The military says the Sacramento native was one of 6 U.S. service members killed by an Iranian drone strike in Kuwait.
All right, there you have it. Not very much definitive reporting on the strike on the girls' school. That's why I said, like, until a probe is done into an investigation is complete, there isn't really that much point in speculating on it. But it's certainly true that it's an effect and a collateral damage of these horrific wars, which unfortunately often so many civilians end up in the crossfire. So pretty sad. And also these U.S. servicemen, it's crazy. Like the U.S. has, was it like 800, something like that, 800 bases around the world. And like Iran, for instance, like they're surrounded, not within Iran itself, but close proximity countries. There's U.S. bases, everywhere within striking distance. Wild stuff. All right, let me know what you think down below. See you on the next one.